Welcome everybody. As I promised, we are going to have a very electrifying discussions. So stay tuned to it. We are going to have a very nice conversations and new ideas about DRE and the women's quality of life, how these two things are connected. And to support me on this subject, we have a very esteemed panel with us. So I would like to invite them one by one. So first I would like to invite Neha Bhaktani. She is Deputy Vice President CSR Sustainability and Climate Action for Tata Capital. And Neha has a master's degree in environmental assessment and management from University of East Anglia, UK, and has a diploma from Swedish Institute. And Neha has been instrumental in supporting community managed solar microgrids in the remotest and the very farthest places. And she has been kindly supporting these communities through many organizations, including us, and very large scale, these community managed microgrids are there with her support. So welcome Neha to the panel. We have second panelist with us, Mr. Silp Burma. I think he needs no introduction. Everybody connected with water, energy knows him, and we are all benefited by his wisdom and experience he has. And Silp is a senior researcher in water energy, food policies, and Deputy Country Manager of IWMI India, that is International Water Management Institute. Silp is a IRMA alumnus and a PhD from Delft University in Technology with water management. And he's a seasoned researcher with tons of research you can explore on the internet and the subject of water, energy and livelihood nexus. So we are pleased to have him on the panel. Thank you, Silp, for joining us. Third panelist to be have is Mr. Samir Nair. Samir is co-founder and director at Gram Urja Solutions Private Limited. And Samir is a graduate from University of Mumbai and an IIM Bangalore alumnus. Samir is leading the planning execution of rural microgrids with very high precision and best of the best quality technology, apart from mobilizing resources for these kind of innovative solutions for rural India. And he is partnering with us, including many other organizations, and supporting implementation of very reliable grids to very remote places in Jharkhand, Northeast, Maharashtra and other parts of country, including I think in Africa also, right? Yeah. So thank you, Samir, for joining us, and we'll start the discussions about that. But first I would like to share something that I have learned by working with this panel here. Like DRE is something, what I can say, it is a kind of a very innovative solutions, and it brings a lot of quality of life for the women. And I can start with a story here. I think back in 2015 में हम लोग गांव में काम कर रहे थे. तो एज यूजुअल कोई भी अगर सॉल्यूशंस होना है तो फर्स्ट वी गो एंड टॉक टू द कम्युनिटी कि ये हम क्या करने वाले हैं और आपकी क्या राय है इसको लेकर के. तो झारखंड के गांव का ये एक मुंडा विलेज है. ग्राम ऊर्जा की टीम भी थी हमारे साथ में, और वी वर सिटिंग गांव में और चर्चा चल रही थी कि क्या होने वाला है. 50-60 लोग बैठे हैं, और जब चर्चा हुई कि गांव में बिजली आएगी तो क्या हो जाएगा, तो एज यूजुअल मिल्स का जो जवाब था कि यहाँ मोटर चलेगा, पंखा चलेगा, बत्ती जलेगी, हमारी ज़िंदगी बेहतर हो जाएगी. एंड एट सेम टाइम देयर आर वुमेन देयर. तो जब महिलाओं से भी उनको बोला कि दीदी आप बताइए बिजली आने से गांव में क्या होगा, तो एक महिला ने बहुत अच्छे से बोला कि हमारी ज़िंदगी रोज़ कम से कम 2 घंटे से ज़्यादा बढ़ जाएगी. तो हमें लगा कि ये इस जवाब को थोड़ा समझते हैं, इसका क्या मतलब है कि 2 घंटे हमारे आपकी ज़िंदगी कैसे बढ़ जाएगी, ज़िंदगी तो उतनी ही है. देखिए हम जहाँ रहते हैं जंगल में शाम को 6 बजे अंधेरा हो जाता है, और उसके बाद केरोसिन की रोशनी में हम जितना कर पाते हैं वो है. उसके बाद में अंधेरे में हमको सोना नहीं है, फिर भी हम पड़े रहते हैं, कहीं बाहर नहीं जा सकते हैं, बिकॉज इट इज़ ऑल पिच डार्क, और हम कुछ कर नहीं सकते हैं. लेकिन अगर रोशनी आ जाएगी तो हम पढ़ा सकते हैं बच्चों को, और कुछ नहीं तो आपस में बातचीत कर सकते हैं, हम कहीं जा सकते हैं. तो हमारा जो एक्टिव लाइफ है वो 2 घंटे बढ़ जाएगा. तो आज मैं रिलेट कर रहा था अपने सब्जेक्ट से कि हम एक क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ का बात कर रहे हैं और दीदी लाइफ का बात कर रही है. सो दिस इज़ आई थिंक दिस टेल्स कि इस तरह का इंस्पिरेशनल स्टोरीज है जो एनर्जी इनेबल करता है. सो DRE इज अ काइंड ऑफ अ बिग इनेबलर इन रूरल डेवलपमेंट एंड एनर्जी एक्सेस एज अ डेवलपमेंट आउटकम. दिस इज़ हाउ वी सी. क्योंकि बहुत समय शहरों में हमें लगता है कि बिजली यू टेक इट फॉर ग्रांटेड, हम स्विच ऑन करते हैं बिजली आ जाती है. बिजली नहीं रहती है तो जनरेटर है, इन्वर्टर है, देयर आर अदर फैसिलिटीज़. तो मैनी टाइम्स वी टेक इट फॉर ग्रांटेड, लेकिन जब हम इस तरह के रिमोट विलेजेज अनसर्व्ड एरियाज में जाते हैं तो वी सी द वैल्यू ऑफ दिस काइंड ऑफ एनर्जी एक्सेस. तो विथ TRI परस्पेक्टिव ये जो डिसेंट्रलाइज रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी है और क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ ऑफ वुमेन है, इसको हम जनरली 4 पिलर्स के हिसाब से देखते हैं. सो फर्स्ट पिलर इज अराउंड इंटरकनेक्टेडनेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट एंड एनर्जी एक्सेस, एंड DRI एज ए सोल्यूशन इनेबलिंग लोकल इकोनॉमी एंड वेलबींग एज वेल एज सर्विंग द लोकल इंटरेस्ट एंड द नेशनल इंटरेस्ट. हमारे देश का भी इंटरेस्ट है कि हमें फॉसिल फ्यूल पर डिपेंडेंसी कम करनी है और रिन्यूएबल्स को बढ़ाना है, तो ये कंट्री का इंटरेस्ट है, बट एट द सेम टाइम इट कंट्रीब्यूट्स टू द वेलबींग ऑफ पीपल, और साथ में काफ़ी इकोनॉमिक अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ को भी ये एड्रेस करता है. सेकेंड इज स्केलिंग एंड इनेबलिंग कम्युनिटी ओन्ड एंड कम्युनिटी मैनेज्ड. मेनी टाइम्स सिंस इट इज अ वेरी टेक्नोलॉजी हैवी थिंग्स, तो ये देखा जाता है कि ये टॉप डाउन बहुत इनेबल्ड या बहुत ही टेक्नोक्रेट्स आकर के इसको मैनेज करेंगे, इसको लगाएंगे, जैसा हमारा एक्सपीरियंस भी है. कोई एक पावर जनरेशन कंपनी है, डिस्कॉम्स हैं, बिलिंग एजेंसीज है, मल्टीपल टेक्नोलॉजीज आर वर्किंग, but very here in TRI we see this as a community owned, community managed and community operated here. तो गांव वाले बिजली बना भी रहे हैं, गांव वाले बिजली बांट भी रहे हैं और गांव वाले उसको पूरे सिस्टम को चला भी रहे हैं. सो वी लुक एट दिस थिंग विथ अ वेरी कम्युनिटी सेंट्रिक अप्रोच. थर्ड इज अबाउट न्यू एंड इनोवेटिव एप्लीकेशंस. इसमें भी बहुत सारे इनोवेशंस हो रहे हैं. आज सुबह भी बात हो रही थी, जैसे एग्रो फोटोवोल्टाइक्स, इट इज़ कमिंग एज, सो इट सर्व्स द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ रूरल कम्युनिटी. ये फार्मर्स के इंटरेस्ट को सर्व करेगा, जिसको एनर्जी भी चाहिए, पानी के ऊपर कंट्रोल भी चाहिए और एग्रीकल्चर भी बेहतर होना चाहिए. सो हाउ एग्री फोटो इनोवेशंस लाइक एग्री फोटोवोल्टाइक्स कैन हेल्प इन फ्यूचर, एंड इट बिकम्स अट्रैक्टिव फॉर द स्मॉल होल्डर फार्मर्स who need energy most. And another pillar that we are looking is unlocking the underutilized innovations, the innovative financial solutions. Since these are very capital heavy instruments, तो हर समय क्या ये सिर्फ ग्रांट डिपेंडेंट हो सकता है, और आर देयर अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ कि हम कुछ जो इनोवेटिव फाइनेंशियल सॉल्यूशंस या अंडर यूटिलाइज फाइनेंशियल सॉल्यूशंस है उसको भी अनलॉक कर सकते हैं. ब्लेंडेड फाइनेंस का बात कर सकते हैं, जैसे CSRs के पैसे हैं या DMFT का पैसा है, TSP है, SCA, देयर आर मेनी अंडर यूटिलाइज्ड public money available, and how these can be leveraged with community and panchayat led things, and all these kind of finances can be unlocked and the community centric approaches can be implemented. क्या ये पंचायत के लिए अदर सोर्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू हो सकता है? क्या ये CLF और VO के लिए एक रेवेन्यू स्ट्रीम बन सकता है? अगर प्राइवेट कंपनीज बिजली बना के बेच सकती है तो ये CBOs क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं? क्या पंचायत नहीं कर सकते हैं इनको, जिनके पास एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर्स है, जिनके पास फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज है और जिनके पास एक कम्युनिटी कनेक्टेडनेस है? सो दीज आर द 4 dimensions we would like to explore today, and we'll discuss more on this as we go in this session.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me for this panel. As a starting remark, see, we ventured into DRE about 8-9 years ago. We started the Green Switch project in line with the Tata Capital's outlook, the philosophy of the 4S, okay, which is having programs which are simple, scalable, synergistic, and sustainable. So this is the base of all our programs. We use capital for Tata Capital. We use capital as a force for good. And through the capital, we want to create empowered communities. That is the whole goal of any of the projects that we do. Similarly, with the Green Switch, when we started designing and thinking about the program, there were multiple technologies available under decentralized energy. At that time, there were solar lanterns, home systems available, but community-driven DREs were very few and far apart. So we did a lot of research. We spoke to a lot of vendors in the market to understand how this program can be implemented in the communities, starting with understanding the technology itself. With a decentralized renewable energy system, can we do a community 24/7 energy system? Okay, have the panels within the community land space, put the control rooms, have each and every house connected through a proper transmission and distribution line, and also power up all the community buildings, the streets, along with the entire system. So it's not just, we are not talking about individual families, but we are talking about community as one unit. And that was the whole purpose of coming up with that design, and that is how we started working with Sameer about 8 years ago. We did a lot of trials in the early stages to understand what will work, how big the community needs to be, who will play what role, because see, to make a system sustainable and for us to have an exit strategy after say 2 or 3 years of hand-holding the community, we need to also build that capacity within the community itself. So it has to be a community-owned system. It has to be taken up by the members of the community, that we will take care of this system because it is benefiting us at the end of the day, not us, but the community itself. So we thought of having a village electricity committee, building capacity of how they should do the billing system, how they have to collect the money, opening up a bank account, having operators in place, and how women can play a role in all of this. So all our village electricity committees thus far have had 50% women participation to make those decisions, to make all the families come together and then run the entire system. So the system that we implemented about 8 years ago in Maharashtra is still running today, right? I think the role of women transcends even just being part of the community, because the circle of influence that women have, it's not just their homes, but it is also the community and how productive they can be. Like Ashok ji mentioned about, 2 घंटे ज़्यादा मिल जाते हैं हम लोग को ज़िंदगी के हर दिन, and how much can they do in those 2 hours? It's not just taking care of the house, the cooking, the household chores, but being caregivers to the elderly, taking care of their children's education, having safe space within their house and on the street, aspiring to have their own, say, rice husking mill or flour mill, a leaf plate oil extraction machine, so that they can earn more money. Okay, so we have seen those things happen just because of putting that system in the community. We started that with a vision that it would power up the houses 24/7, but these outcomes that we have seen over the years on productivity, on better lifestyle, on convenient lifestyle, safer spaces, those have been the outcomes of the program over the years. And that has had profound effect on the women, on the way they think, how they participate in the community, and even how they have their own decisions on to bring the community together. So I think I'll stop here. Maybe we can have more discussion around this.
Thank you, Neha ji, for your opening remarks. Now I would like to invite Samir for his opening remarks.
So we've been doing this microgrids for about 13 years now. We've existed as a company for 17 years, and we focus on energy access in rural areas. It can be, electricity. It can be even other cooking gas and so on. We've done that. Now, if you were to restrict yourself to just microgrids, we've done 150 microgrids over the last 10 years or so. 100 of them are in Jharkhand, and pretty much 95 to 98% of them are actually functioning even after 7-8 years. And when I say functioning, the villages, 4 villages just this year, in the last 3 or 4 months, and Ashokji was also involved in all of these 4 villages, they've actually collected money for replacing the batteries at their villages, because all of these systems are in off-grid locations where the grid does not exist, which means that you need storage, and storage is expensive. That is the reason why things can get out of hand in many other locations. But our whole emphasis has been to create a community-based model where the villagers themselves recognize that they will need to spend money on replacing the battery after 8 or 10 years or 7 years, and they willingly contribute towards that replacement going forward. So while the initial capital is contributed by CSR, like Tata Capital, Bank of America was a big donor at one point of time, ICICI Bank, but over the life cycle, if you talk of the nominal value of the money that is spent over the life cycle, about 50% of the cost of the project over a 24-year life panels actually comes from the villagers in the form of battery replacement, right? So it's not as if it's like being given free to anyone or anything of that sort. There is a capital subsidy or a contribution from donors like Tata Capital, but a lot of it is actually brought in by the villagers over its life cycle, over a 25-year life cycle. So, and the villagers willingly come up, give you that 4 lakh check, 5 lakh check to replace the batteries, which means that it is sustainable by itself, right? Otherwise, the biggest problem in rural electrification in general has been the lack of participation from the villagers in terms of contributing tariff, because there is essentially a lack of trust. They believe that anyway, sarkari bijli nahi aati hai, time pe hum kyun de? Sarkar believes these are places where anyway we don't collect tariffs. So that is where the role of a NGO, a community-led program with tariff collection comes in, and we've managed to demonstrate successfully that it works. So now our own desire is that probably we have about, just in Jharkhand, to our knowledge, there are 250 villages of this type. Across the country, it is perhaps 10 times that number. It's very difficult to estimate because many of these are hamlets within different revenue villages, so the hamlets are not fully counted as unelectrified and so on. So we don't know the exact, but let's assume it's at least 2,500 villages, probably much more. Circling back to what Anish said earlier in the day today, Government of India spends 4.5 to 5 lakh crores on rural development projects every year. If you look at PM Krishi Yojana and all the various, the Jal Jeevan, Awas Yojana, all of that put together, we're talking of 5 lakh crores. Now, if you look at these 250 villages of Jharkhand, as per our estimate, it's going to cost about 100 crores of capital to do it. For a country which is spending 4 or 5 lakh crores, whatever the number is, probably more if you add the state government budgets, it's really not a very big deal in terms of money from that perspective, right? So 100 crores for this 250 villages, and let's say across the country there are 20 times that number. That's 5,000 villages. We are still talking about something like 1,000 crores, which over a 4-5 year period, if we can target, we will eliminate all kinds of energy poverty from the remotest of places, and all it takes is really about 200 crores. So Neha has promised to help me with that process and to take it to the higher ups. So as Anish kept, I don't know if Anish is still here, but yeah. So we are making this declaration that in the next 5 years we'll do all the 1,000 with Neha's support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Samir. So over to Silp now, please.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you for having me here and for convening this wonderful group. Although you've given us the most difficult panel or time of the day. But I am basically a water researcher. EMI, my organization, it's a research organization. Our work is primarily research, but also mostly in the water use in agriculture space, not even in the drinking water. Our history, we were initially International Irrigation Management Institute. Then we broadened to water. But the reason why we started working on energy and on DRE is actually to do with a partnership that EMI and Tata Trust started 25 years back. In 2001, EMI and Tata Trust came together, not for Tata Trust to give EMI money to do more research. I think Tata Trust was well aware that even back then, India has plenty of scientific capacity. We have some of the world's best institutions, some of the world's best scientists. So we don't need more foreign organizations coming and doing more research here. But to convert research that is already being done and take it to policy action. So the mandate of this program, which has been now running, called the EMI Tata Water Policy Program, is to learn from what the scientists are saying and then try and convert it into action on the ground, either through the ecosystem of Tata Trust partner NGOs or through state and national government policy action. So, and one of the first things that this EMI Tata program started doing in its early years was to start working on energy. And the reason for that is that if we want to manage water in India, we cannot do it without managing energy. most of our irrigation use comes through groundwater, and groundwater requires energy to lift. And most of the farmers either are deprived of energy, so they have to rely on, for a long time, expensive and polluting diesel, or they get free power. Some of the privileged farmers get free power, and then that also creates perverse incentives for overuse of and overexploitation of groundwater. So unless we manage the energy sector, we cannot manage the water sector. I mean, we can keep going and lecturing farmers to use water more carefully, more efficiently, more effectively, conserve water. But if the electricity utility is going to give them free power, then of course most farmers will respond to those incentives. So that's how we started working on water, energy, and agriculture nexus. And in 2010-11, we figured, or we realized that solar pumps are coming along, right? I think Rajasthan was the first government which started offering very high, 86% capital subsidy for farmers to deploy solar pumps. And actually we started working on DRE because we thought it would be a threat. It would be a threat to groundwater. Because when you give free power to farmers, you ration it. Farmers don't get 24/7 free power. They get it for 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. Maybe the quality of power is very bad. So that is some control on how much groundwater farmers can pump. But once these panels are installed on the farmer's field, and there is no other use of this energy except to pump groundwater, then groundwater is going to get worse. And we started thinking about of course, solarization is very good, right? From the energy point of view, from the climate mitigation point of view, also for the farmers to be independent of the grid, it's a very good thing. But how to do it in a way that also doesn't destroy our groundwater resources? And in 2015, we did a small pilot in Gujarat where we said if large corporate entities can install solar plugs and then get the government to pay them for the power, why can't the same deal be offered to farmers? And we created a project called Solar Power as a Remunerative Crop. And we said that just as farmers grow food crops and then sell it in the market, why can't they grow energy and sell it to the grid and earn money out of it? And we organized some farmers into a solar cooperative, solar energy cooperative. And those farmers have been now using solar panels to run their irrigation pumps for more than 10 years. They use about a third of the energy that the panels generate to meet all their irrigation requirement. They also use some of it to sell irrigation to their neighbors. So they are not restricting their agriculture use in any way. They were doing exactly what they were doing earlier, but with the other 2/3 energy that they don't need for pumping, they're earning as much from solar as they're earning from agriculture. So we thought this would be a very good way of doubling farmers' income. Since then, we've been doing a lot of experiments also in the off-grid space in Bihar, which is actually more relevant to this panel because there it's really women-led. We've also done some experiments with Urja in UP. We are doing an experiment in Jharkhand where we are encouraging an FPO to invest in a solar pump and then run it as an enterprise. But I'll talk just one more minute about the experiment that we started in Bihar. With Aga Khan Rural Support Program as a field partner, we started by creating solar irrigation entrepreneurs, so solar irrigation service providers. And the reason for that was very simple. In Bihar, even if I'm lucky enough to have 1 hectare land, which is a big thing. I mean, 1 hectare farmer is a big farmer in Bihar. But even then, I will have it in 10 or 12 different places because of the fragmentation of landholding. So there is no way I can invest in a solar pump because where will I put it, right? And how will I irrigate all my land? So we thought we need to couple solar pumps with a network of buried pipes such that the pipes can deliver water not just to the farm where the pump is installed, but to a larger command area. And we learned this from what Gujarati farmers do in Anand, where anytime a farmer decides to invest in a tube well, he first goes and talks to his neighbors and says, "Tum mujhse pani kharidoge, tum mujhse pani kharidoge," and then he puts the pipes. The pump owner invests in the pipes and then recovers his investment through the sale of irrigation. And we tried to replicate this model in a village in North Bihar called Chakhaji. And that went well. We initially started with 5 entrepreneurs, and today there are more than 20 in that area. But now what we are doing with AKRSP and with Jivika is we are offering solar pumps as a micro enterprise to self-help group women. So in one village, 10 such women have taken a loan and got some subsidy to install these solar pumps, and then they are going to repay that loan from the sale of irrigation that they are. Each of these pumps can service 60 to 80 small farmers in their neighborhood, in their vicinity. And that also basically improves the utilization of this asset. So it makes economic sense, but it also creates a green job for these women, and also leads to all sorts of secondary and tertiary impacts, which we are now trying to study. So I'll stop here. We are now just getting into agrivoltaics, also with TRI, and I hope that we'll keep experimenting with new business models where the focus is not so much on the energy part or even on water. Our focus in the EMI Tata Water Policy Program is always on livelihoods.
Thank you, Sil, for bringing the perspective ki how excess of energy enables many things in the rural society and create new opportunities for the communities. So we'll dig more deeper into these aspects from implementation management point of view with later questions. And I can see many of TRI colleagues are also here present in this group. So I will come to Gram Urja to give us a little more perspective about being as a IIM graduate or people from IIT, and these highly trained professionals taken themselves a task of, I think they're the most difficult task, reaching out to the most difficult places and bringing the most sophisticated technology and solving the challenges here. So I would like to learn a little more story about Gram Urja, how it started, and what are your thoughts about this energy access to rural communities.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, fine. So Anshuman is my co-founder, and he and I were actually batchmates. Not batchmates, we were hostel mates. He was 1 year junior to me at Bangalore, and we were good friends then, but like obviously he was a year junior. For many years we were not in touch. Then we met at some event, some institute event, and then he was also an investment banker at that time, working for a company called Globus Capital Advisors, and we used to do cross-border mergers and acquisitions, fundraising for private equity, and that's where I also worked for 3 or 4 years. So this was in 2008, and luckily most of these ideas, because we went to some of our batchmates who, from 2003 to 2008, many of them had done well for themselves financially, professionally, and also in a investment capacity. And we had tied up the money before the crisis hit. So before they lost their jobs, etc., we had commitments from them. So it was launched on 24th April 2008, as in the incorporation date. We just wrote a 2-page document saying that we want to try, and Anshuman had some background in working in a pro bono capacity in tribal schools. He had taken a year off. So he recognized that there is this problem of energy access in villages. And at that time, if people know, there was a report by Goldman Sachs that, crude oil is going to hit $147 a barrel. It's never hit that number since that. So it talks about how much you should rely on organizations such as, and I'm not taking anything away from their ability. It's just so hard to describe what's going to happen later, right? Because shale oil came in the US, which became a major supplier. US is actually an exporter of oil. So it never hit that price. But around that time, this fear that fossil fuels is a problem. Renewable energies prices are coming down. So why not start some entity which kind of relies on this basic fact that cost of renewable energy will come down. And rural India, there's a paucity of power, there's a lack of enough power. This is all we knew. Neither of us knew much about Gram or Urja. So we didn't know much. So we started off naively thinking that, we wrote a 2-page note to our friends saying that invest in this, and they were all happy to put in some money, saying that, look, we want to try something out. We don't know exactly how this is going to pan out. And we believed that we should start this as a for-profit company, because in case things do work out, then it can be scaled up we can return the money to people who have supported us. So that was the idea, being starting a for-profit company. So the first 3-4 years, we actually thought that we will, we'll use our knowledge as finance professionals to go to villages, identify entrepreneurs, see if we can finance them, see if we can get technology partners for them, and so on and so forth. So that was our first 2 or 3 years. But honestly, it was not working out because we were not able to really so easily. I'm not saying that there aren't, but the process of going and identifying is also costly, right? It's not so easy. So we realized that we'll have to do something on our own. Around that time, we met Bosch, the German company, and they said that, we are doing this solar panel business. We're going to, grow it in a big way. And we want to start off in India, but we want to, like Germans, they said that we will do it only if we actually see a live, in terms of how their panels will work in rural India, will it work or not? So are you all willing to implement? So we will finance the whole techno-commercial pilot, it was not a CSR project. So that was our first microgrid in Darewadi, Pune, where they gave the entire money. Bosch, of course, about 6 months after Bosch gave us that money, they stopped solar manufacturing because China had started, driving down prices so much that it was not viable for them. So that was the other luck, that we raised money before the global financial crisis. We got Bosch to support us before they shut down their solar. But that was what our first community-led project, where we got the entire group there to actually get together, make a village electrification community, and so on. So that was our first project. And the first project that we did in Jharkhand, Ashokji was, of course, part of that project. Khunti and Gumla, we had traveled, in fact, Anshumanji had traveled together. But our first project, the thing about community, we were very keen that we have a project only in Maharashtra, but the villagers from Jharkhand in the first, that bunch of villages that we did, Bhinjpur and all of those villages, all Jorko, all of those from Kuti. So we took the villagers at our cost from there to Pune, to our village, because unless you see what you're getting into, don't commit. Don't say that you want to do this project just because you're going to get it. You go there, see that if it's working properly, there is a community which is contributing towards battery replacement. You have to run it yourself. It is owned by you. There are these benefits. See for yourself how it's working in Pune. So I think about 30 or 40 villagers we had taken all the way from, if people have actually traveled to some of these places in Gumla and Khuti and all, it's not easy to get to Ranchi from there. And from there we got them to Pune. We made sure that, and then they came back and said, yes, we want to do these projects. So that's when Tata Trust and Bank of America both decided to support us, and we started our initial projects in Jharkhand. Yeah. So that is the first 5 or 6 years of the journey.
Okay. Thank you. So here is a story about if you want to do something, how we can make things happen, and it creates a very new journey to and very new solutions emerge for rural India. So I was interested to understand how come Gram Urja are staying at Pune and working in such a remote area. So thank you, Samir, for your insights and your story. So now I would like to come to Nehaji from Tata Capital to have a little more light on how the CSRs or philanthropies or kind of financial solutions can emerge, because as we were discussing, the need is there. One is there are still a lot of unserved communities out there, and there are underserved communities already there. So slowly the energy demand is going to increase in rural areas, and how you see these demands can be met through different financial resources or different financial models, and the role of people who can put money in this, maybe CSR money or blended finance. So how do you see things here?
Okay, that's a very loaded question. The government, of course, has the most amount of funds available at their end, right? And if it is channelized properly, you really won't require any CSR funds or any blended finance in that sense. I know Jharkhand started a program on putting up DREs in about 1,000 villages, which I frankly have not heard how that program is going on. But the government does have a lot of funds available. There are models that from CSR investments, and I'm calling it investments because it's important to recognize that the money that we are putting it through the corporates, firstly, it is limited. Second is that we have to put it to such an efficient use so that we can show impact and we can also empower the communities through that. So we are really doing proof of a particular model and how the government can then kind of take it forward. The CSR investments, if we combine that with HNI investments, philanthropic investments, family-run foundations, it can definitely make a huge difference. What Samir was talking about earlier, if we are putting everything together, we have about 5,000 more communities to serve. And these are all remote, unreachable, vulnerable communities who are part of a particular Gram Panchayat, but they might be about 1 to 7 kilometers away from their Gram Panchayat also. So to even identify such communities will take a lot of resource, footwork, surveys to be done. But in terms of financing, I think it's important to recognize that whatever resources available at our end, you call it blended finance, CSR investment, government subsidies, it just has to be put to a better use. It has to be put to a much more efficient use. Otherwise, having financial instruments is okay. I mean, you can term it whatever you want, but it really needs to show that result. It needs to also talk to the community to say that we are only pushing you to a certain limit. We are just giving you a leg up. But the ultimate investment comes in from the community. Like we have seen, in total, I think we've done about 99 such hamlets till March of the financial year. Each of the communities, we have invested just 50% of the investment for the lifetime use of the DRE system. The rest of the 50% is really coming in from the community through their billing systems, through the one-time registration fees that they pay, the insurance money that they are collecting themselves to make sure that any damages are covered throughout the lifetime. So the community needs to be empowered through the limited funds that are available, really. Yeah.
Thank you, नेहा जी. So फाइनेंस का ये एक पर्सपेक्टिव है. बहुत समय लगता है कि ये बहुत पैसा है और CSR के पैसे से ही होगा, बट हमने 2 सोर्सेज से सुना कि 50% कम्युनिटी उसमें कंट्रीब्यूट कर रही है over the lifetime. And to just supplement this, recently जो हमारे 70 ग्रिड झारखंड के हैं उनका हम लोगों ने रिसेंटली अभी एक ऑडिट कराया कि हाउ मच मनी दे हैव कलेक्टेड. सो इट इज़ कमिंग टू ऑलमोस्ट 1 crore rupees in I think 4 years time. Now they have collected about 1 crore rupees as energy charges. They are running their own insurance system. 2 बार कोशिश किया उनको अपना एसेट इंश्योर करने का. द काइंड ऑफ सर्विसेज दे गेट फ्रॉम द इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज, दे डिसाइडेड दे विल रन देयर ओन इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज. दे आर पुटिंग प्रीमियम्स, दे आर सेटिंग असाइड ए कॉर्पस, एंड दैट इज गुड इनफ टू टेक केयर ऑफ even if an inverter is burnt or even a panel is broken, that can be taken care of by the corpus that they are creating every year. That is almost about 0.15% of the cost of the assets. So if a proper design is there, many things community can manage it by themselves. So here comes the role of community-centric approach and the ownership. How the community can own it and they can take care of the financial parts also.
Yeah, just to give a perspective to that, the fees are really nominal. So when we start off the project, there is a one-time registration fee that each family or whoever is taking one connection has to pay. It ranges between 1,000 to 1,500 rupees, which they pay over a period of time, say 3 or 4 months in installment. Next, the monthly billing system, the bills will come only up to about 120, 150 rupees a month, which includes a fixed charge of 100 rupees and 10 rupees a unit. The rate is high because of the battery backup system. But how we compare it in terms of savings, for kerosene, each of these houses would require about 2 to 3 liters a month to just light up some part of their houses, right? And you would spend about 200 to 300 rupees just on kerosene for domestic use. So you are firstly halving the billing cycle of every month, but you are also making sure that you are creating a corpus for the battery backup, for the inverters that need to be replaced, for the insurance system, just with these nominal charges.
So we talked about the financial part, and लेकिन एक और नैरेटिव जो हमें सुनने के लिए मिलता है कि माइक्रो ग्रिड्स चलते नहीं हैं, पहला 1 साल 2 साल चलता है, उसके बाद में रिपेयर मेंटेन चलते, दे बिकम डिफंक्ट. एंड आप थोड़ा इंडिया में अगर सर्च भी करेंगे, द फर्स्ट आर्टिकल अपीयर फ्रॉम द गार्जियन, नहीं, न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स का है कि बांग्लादेश शुड लर्न फ्रॉम द फेलियर ऑफ माइक्रो ग्रिड्स इन इंडिया. बट हियर वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ए वेरी डिफरेंट नैरेटिव. तो I would like to come to Silp on this कि इसको लेकर के what the research says about these energy systems, community managed energy systems, if you have some insights कि how they are functioning.
So I think most of the evidence that I have seen actually backs what you just said. If the community realizes that the system is beneficial, then there is no limit to how much they are willing to invest. And the evidence, the largest scale evidence, is in the groundwater economy. We have 25 million wells and tube wells. Almost none of it is financed from public resources. No large government program has financed the wells and tube wells. Each tube wells, in some locations, tube wells cost more than ₹1 lakh. But farmers invest 98% of this, and this is NSSO data, 98% of investment in tube wells comes from private sources. Either the farmer's own money or money that they've collected from their friends and family. So why did they do that? Earlier, I think in the 1960s and 70s, there were World Bank programs promoting groundwater use in UP, and the government set up public tube wells. In many states, there are public tube well programs. All of them did not work. They were all defunct because the irrigation departments were running them, and the farmers rejected them. But the success of those public tube well programs is that they showed the farmers that groundwater is a good resource to have under control, and then they started investing, and the success of private tube wells basically crowded out the public tube well program. And it's not just, I mean, wells are mostly individual, but they're also community. In North Gujarat, where it becomes impossible for a farmer, individual farmer, to invest in a tube well because you have to go 1,200 feet deep, then farmers come together to form informal joint stock companies and collectively invest in the wells. And then if I have invested 30% of the capital, then 30% of the time of running of the tube well is mine. I can either use it myself or I can sell it to someone. So there is enough evidence. And also there are more than 7 million diesel pumps. Before this whole DRE revolution, all of these diesel pumps are run with very expensive diesel. Diesel is not subsidized for so many years. And farmers are investing because they know the benefit of irrigation and the impact it can have on its livelihoods. So this is enough evidence to show that if we can set the system well, then the community will not hesitate to invest in it.
Thank you, Silp. So the story here is it is connected with, if it is connected with their livelihoods, if it is enabling multiple systems, it is viable and it can survive more. But at the same time, many times when we come to the DRE systems, maybe the quality of implementation, troubleshooting services, and the hardware that is there, they may also play a role. So I would like to come to Gram Urja on that. What is your take on the aspect of quality troubleshooting, timely troubleshooting services, quality of implementation, and hardware, all this kind of?
Yeah, so by the very nature of these specific kind of villages, actually cost, if you have to go multiple times to the villages to service, it becomes extremely unviable financially, right? Many of them are so remote that you cannot possibly go to those villages without some kind of motorized vehicle at some point. So therefore the idea is to kind of reduce the number of times you actually have to go. if that means making sure that you over-invest in the initial capex, over a life cycle, it's still much, much cheaper to do that. That is, if I spend, say, buying an inverter which is 25-30% more expensive, right? Yeah. Then there are many inverters available, but there are some which are specifically very good at managing off-grid systems with battery management technology, which is good and so on. And those tend to be more expensive than the ones that you can buy off a shop. But by investing in them, what you do is you kind of make sure that you don't have to go and keep going to the village to service very often. So therefore, it might seem like a paradox, but the most difficult areas is where you need to invest most in the initial technology. If I'm putting up an inverter in Bombay and if something goes wrong, I'll probably be able to get an electrician from like 500 meters in most cases who will be able to come and solve the thing. But if I have to do it in Benduakuna, in Gumla, I have to send someone from Ranchi 150 kilometers. Just going and coming. So if you can build that initial intuition that do not consider the initial investment as some kind of a waste. Take the best technology. So if it is Panasonic panels, it might be 2 rupees more expensive than the other panels, but you're sure that their quality is very good. You buy that. Inverters, like I said. In terms of wiring, in terms of Jharkhand, for instance, there is a very specific problem of some districts, very high intensity lightning during the monsoons. Extremely high intensity. So many of our microgrids in the first year that we implemented in Kuti and Gumla, there was a problem because the moment you had an episode of lightning, the inverters used to go for a toss. So you had to kind of overcapacitize the surge protection devices, earthing and so on to such an extent that that doesn't happen. So in short, most of it is about recognizing that servicing can be very expensive. So invest in very high quality technology. It will last and it will also create fewer problems. So that means that we have to ask more money from Neha for each project. So, but she understands that it's okay. It's obviously high quality inverters and so on. So that happens. But that is in the long run. It's being it has helped us a lot. The other thing is many of the people working with us now are actually from the villages that we first implemented. As in, we did 10 villages in Maharashtra in 2015. So we have about 10 people working in Gram Urja who were beneficiaries of that microgrid. Then they're working with us. They are tribals. They understand broadly the language of working. Imagine having an electrician going to a village which is 5 kilometers from the nearest town, and the only way you can go there is through a muddy track. You have to go through part of it by foot, etc. And you have to live there for a month while implementing. When there is no electricity at that point of time, when you are implementing, you cannot take people from cities to do that. They will not do that. Because I know in your earlier organization, in year 2, they said, no, why are they giving Gram Urja this project? Bank of America project, Pradhan said that somebody sitting in Delhi must have said, no, you can't do it without a tender or whatever. And they went and hunted for some local vendors. And they gave the project. After 2 months, they came back to us saying that no, those vendors, once they saw the villages, they said, no, we can't do it at this cost. So that sensitivity of the team, because of being part of the similar communities, has also helped us make sure that the implementation goes on. Because social issues are bound to come even when you're implementing, right? Somebody says it's my land that you're taking the pole through. So our team now knows how to handle this through experience. So all of that helps. So focus on quality initially and having a sensitive, a team which is sensitized to being able to deliver in these places. I think those are the 2 qualities.
Yeah. Thank you, Samir, for the insight. One is about the quality of hardware, and second is about the team that is ready. Many times they are not ready-made that they can go and stay in the villages for long term, and because I have seen the wiring team goes and stay in the villages for months, doing things and solving local challenges. Those are emerging. So apart from hardware, this is a kind of social engineering and building local capacities, because they are the assets stay in the community. So later on, whenever there are small challenges emerging, these are the people who come and solve many of the challenges. So that adds to the sustainability of the very expensive hardware installed in very remote areas. So this is one part. So after that, we will be talking a little more about the new innovations that is called agri-photovoltaics. But before that, I would like to come back to the topic here about quality of women's quality of life, how DRE is adding to that. Since Nehaji has made multiple visits to the places where these are installed, so what you have experienced, that how it is adding to the quality of life for the women who are part of this whole grid ecosystem, or they are using it or managing it?
I think in the earlier panel, they were talking about how women stay back in the villages and they become an active member of whatever is going on in the community. They are a part of the life, right? See, women, as per my analysis of how many times I've been in these villages and been to Ranchi, Jharkhand particularly, there are 3 circles of influence. One is at home, where the woman is in charge of the house. She has to ensure that she's the caregiver. She is the one who is ensuring that the house is running on time. So taking care of ensuring that the space is safe for her to do her work, to ensure that the seniors are taken well care of, the children are taken care of. I think energy plays a huge role in making it more convenient for her, right? Imagine going back home in the evening without any light. You have to do the entire household work. You have to cook, you have to take care of the child, you have to take care of any health related issues in the house with no electricity. See, power is a basic necessity. Power is something that powers every aspect of our lives now. But for these women, when they have no access to power, वो मिट्टी के तेल से कुछ नहीं दिखता है. She can just see a few more meters from her feet. That is all that she can see. So DRE helps her to get that control back into her life. And it has it's a complete change to have 24/7 clean, affordable electricity at home. It's a complete change in perspective. So at home, she becomes more confident of herself, of how she wants to run her house, how she's taking care of others. Okay, that's the first circle of influence. Second is on the productive level during the day. Like Ashokji was mentioning, that you have more time in the day now to be more productive on the field, to do her work, to get more income. She doesn't have to think about कि मुझे घर वापस जाना है और ये complete करना है before शाम आ जाए. She can be more productive outside during the daytime. So that's the second level where she is now earning more money. And third is at the her influence in the community itself, how she can be a leader. We have seen 50% participation in our village electricity committees who are women. They are driving the entire, they are the force behind getting everybody together, ensuring that the system runs on time, ensuring that every month the billing happens. So they are part of that force, they are part of the discussions. She can take those decisions right now. So her influence, her confidence in the community increases. We've seen some of the women also are operators now. So technically also she is growing, getting more confidence. So I think these 3 levels of influence that the women has in the community, I think that has a profound impact on herself and also on her children. So we see that generational benefit also coming around because of just one system. And we started the program with thinking that the immediate impact will be electricity. कि domestic electricity मिल जाएगी and we will see what happens then. But to see the outcome of the project after 4 or 5 years, it's a complete transformation of how they run their lives, what kind of outlook they have, and what kind of aspirations they have now. So a lot of women have invested their own money into buying a refrigerator, buying a oil extraction machine. It's a risk for them, right? It's they don't know if when they got the electricity for the first time, the initial first few months is just trust building के बिजली रहेगी कि नहीं रहेगी, right? अगर ब्लॉक लेवल पे बिजली चली जाती है तो वो 2-3 दिन तक नहीं आती. Will the same thing happen with this system? So that initial phase is really important for them to gain control, to gain that trust on the system. But once they see that they have electricity which is in their control, you see a complete transformation on how risk-taking even women can be. And I think the initial trust building was done with the first 9 villages that we piloted out in Jharkhand. So we saw that change over a period of 8-9 months. But now when we do that same implementation in the village that we did, say, about 2 months ago, they don't take so long because they've already seen the system working in the previous village. So they are willing to take that risk immediately. So you see that difference in their perspective, in how they want to take control of their own lives, their children's life, and also grow with that.
Thank you, Nehaji, for giving the insights and the experiences. This is actually happening once energy arrives in the villages, and these are all parameters that adding to the quality of life of women. And one more part is now they have a time to kind of some rest, as well as some amenities, like there are televisions at home for entertainment also under their control. So this also adds to kind of a quality of life of these women. We can see mixer grinders working in the villages. That again adds to the quality of life to these women. So now I will come to Silp again for more insights on the new innovation that is called agri-photovoltaics. As you are spearheading agri-photovoltaics with smallholder farmers, and you talk about different scales like micro, mini, meso, and mega scale kind of the scale of solar grid, as well as different kind of farmers and how agrivoltaics fits in here. So some light on that. So
yeah, so agrivoltaics is basically a very simple concept. It's started mostly in countries like Japan, and also it's quite popular also in Europe, because these countries have less land and they are deploying more solar, and they don't want to use land which is currently under agriculture use. So the idea is that you do it double story. You have agriculture on the ground and then solar on top. I think most of this is done on a very large scale. Most of the solar plants in these countries are large scale, 10 megawatt, 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt, and then they do some grasslands underneath, and it's grazing PV. It's one category of agri PV that is happening. But it's also kind of gaining a lot of attention in India. MNRE and ICR have set up a center of excellence on agrivoltaics in IARI in Delhi. MNRE is actively considering including agri PV as part of the next PM Kusum 2.0, so they want to actively encourage it. There are also several CSRs who are investing in agrivoltaics. It makes sense. After all, farmers are the biggest, collectively, not individually, but they are the biggest landowners. So if there is already in some cases conflicts where solar expansion is eroding on agricultural land or pasture land, common land which communities are using, and they may not be able to use it after these lands are converted into solar parks. Now, the tendency is to only do this at a very large scale, but what we are trying to do is also to do mini and micro agrivoltaics. Micro agrivoltaics is actually something that we are observing that farmers are already doing. Again, I'll talk about some data from Bihar. We just surveyed, phone surveyed, some 150 odd farmers who had solar pumps, either through Kusum or some donor-led program. And we asked them, what do you do with the space that is underneath the panels? Now, 45% of them are already growing some crops underneath the panels. They probably have never heard of this concept of agrivoltaics, but they're doing it because they don't want to lose the land. Even these are 5 HP, 5 kilowatt systems, but then still they are experimenting with different crops. Some crops they tried, they didn't work. Some crops they're doing well. In conditions like India, actually covering crops with solar panels, or some crops, not all crops, might actually improve productivity because we have the problem of too much sunshine, especially in the summer season. So we want to encourage this. This is something that's already happening. We want to actually study that. But whenever we do any solar installation in the rural areas, the tendency is to fence it off. Right? We want to do the ground-mounted system and then fence out that area, and then there is no other land use possible. What we are trying with partners, including with TRI, is to retrofit these systems and elevate the panels and then see whether it makes sense to do agrivoltaics there instead of doing ground-mounted solar. Now, in some cases, it would make sense. It's not something that will work everywhere, but we are trying to see what are the different opportunities. In Dahod, in a tribal village, we are working with Sustain Plus and Cine, where a solar lift irrigation scheme was installed on a farmer's field. Now, the farmer was kind enough to allow that to happen in the interest of the community. It's a community scheme, right? So the whole community will benefit. Okay, I will lose some land, that's okay. But now he wants to use that land also for farming, and just elevating the panels a bit will allow that to happen, and we are trying to do that pilot. Similarly, with TRI, we are trying to see whether microgrids can be retrofitted. We just elevate the panels and try and do some experiments with cropping underneath. We are in discussion with the National Dairy Development Board. They are promoting fodder farms in their model dairy villages, and we are trying to see whether fodder can be grown in these fodder farms, also under agrivoltaic condition, either with elevated panels or with alternate rows of fodder and solar panels. We are going to experiment with vertical panels. So there's a lot of innovations happening in the solar space, but it's not percolating to the agriculture space. Largely because solar companies don't want to interact with farmers. They don't want to work with them. They just want to pay some lease, if not buy the land. And then most of the business model is focused around the revenue from energy, from the solar energy that is generated. But we feel that if we do this well, this could actually also help farmers transition into high-value agriculture, because most of the crops that will grow well will be high-value agriculture crops, and it can add another. And basically, farmers are not just kind of bystanders in this solar revolution, that they can be more active players in the solarization of our rural spaces.
Thank you, Sil, for the perspective on these new innovations that is happening, and we are happy that you are helping us. So it can create a space for farmers individually or collectively come into picture and basically harness these new innovations where they can produce even energy as a crop and high value agriculture as other crop. So thank you for that. And I think in the interest of time, we'll take a pause here and we'll invite if there are some questions to the panels. So please introduce yourself and let us know with whom you want to take the answers.
Thank you. My name is Rajiv Jha, and fortunately I belong from a tribal region. I was born in Simdega, where you were working, near to Kumla. Very good memories I have from there. But my question is, what is the regulatory challenges you face while doing the microgrid, something like that? I found it very challenging because I also work in the development sector. I try to operate in the Sundarban regions in West Bengal. And they also have this lack of access to energy and the water. And the local politics also. So how you face the regulatory challenges to implement this? Because theory is fine, but making it a praxis, theory in practice is difficult. So what are the challenges you face in terms of regulations and all that?
So, so there was an Electricity Act amendment which was made in 2005, which made it possible for rural unelectrified villages areas. So for instance, we can't, theoretically, we can create a microgrid in terms of the technology in, let's say, Jangpura or somewhere, right, in Delhi. We can do that and we can supply to all the households. But you are not allowed to do that because you need a license, a distribution license. right? Because otherwise there'll be right-of-way issues, who will own the transmission wires, etc. But the Act made it possible that in areas which did not have electrification at that point of time and were rural, these were the two conditions, you did not need to obtain a transmission or distribution license to set up a microgrid. That is point number one. Point number two is they made it mandatory for you to get a no objection certificate from the local Gram Panchayat for you to be able to do that. Now what happens in tribal areas is that typically the tribal areas within the village, they are typically homogeneous, unlike non-tribal villages where you will have different communities, political affiliations, all of those complications might arise. But within a specific village, because they are homogeneous, their incentive to kind of work together and get the NOC from the panchayat and all of that is relatively easy. So that is from the NOC perspective. So because some of the land can be on which we are operating the grid, as in where we are putting the solar plant, could be in some cases owned by the Gram Panchayat, not necessarily in Jharkhand. In many cases, it is owned by a private individual there, right? So you just have to need to reach an agreement as to how that private individual will benefit from the fact that a plant is being created there. So from our perspective in the kind of villages that we are doing, there is relatively very little regulatory problem. That is, but we have faced problems in places like Maharashtra, where also we've done a lot of projects. See, the good thing about Jharkhand for us is that in many of these places, the government probably doesn't even know that village exists, okay? So therefore, they don't come and disturb us. In Maharashtra, unfortunately, the governance is a little better, but not fully. So there, the problem is they come and start creating trouble. So there is a bunch of villages in Maharashtra which was created 40 years ago because people had to move away from their original location because Vaitarna, the dams that provide water to Bombay, essentially. So people are all told to go away from their location. But now the government refuses to acknowledge that they exist or their right. So they were made to go by the government only. But 40 years, 50 years ago, there wasn't, the project in terms of, rehabilitation of project affected people, etc. It was not, I think, codified. So unfortunately, they don't have any ownership. And they came into what is called forest land. And so the forest officers keep coming and saying, no, you can't create a microgrid here. So there are those problems in some locations. It's not as if there is no regulatory challenge. But in these kind of places, Jharkhand, etc., we found almost negligible. And Maharashtra also, we've done lots of microgrids. It's only in that one belt where the forest officers were objecting as to how, although the forest is essentially about transmission of high voltage lines should not go through the forest so that it doesn't, a microgrid is not going to create any problem for any animal or anything of that sort. And the fact that those people are living there means that it's obviously not a core area of a forest, right? So, but still, yeah. So, but otherwise in terms of the law for, does it enable you to produce and distribute electricity in a community? It perfectly allows you to. And for Gram Urja, the other advantage in our model is that we do not have any economic interest from the tariffs that are collected. There is no share of the tariff that comes to Gram Urja at all. All the money is in the initial implementation, right? So the initial implementation, there's the CSR, which recognizes that we need to also exist, and some part of that money comes to us. But because we don't have any economic interest in the tariff, those kind of conflicts also then don't come about. So we've not really, barring the 4 or 5 villages in Maharashtra, Shahpur especially, we've not had any regulatory challenge in any of our locations. So it's been pretty good.
Hello. Thank you so much for this insightful session. So I am Pulkesh Shrotri. I am working as energy advisor at GIZ. So my question is very generic and community centric. Basically, we are talking about the livelihood value chains where these value chains are obviously energy intensive. Then we have seen that there are 2 factors which are impeding the adaptability, demand for the these type of RE solutions. One is the lack of customized solutions that people want community wants or the micro industries, household industries wants the technology as per their own need. But we are providing what we have in our bucket. So in that way, what is the view of financial institutions to develop that type of solutions to retrofit or to customize the technology as per their own need? And second thing is that is affordability. So we are also creating that type of taxonomy, but that taxonomy to just to make the contribution from their end is for the technology which is already available, but not for the customized solution. So with respect to the financial point of view, just I want to know that what type of solutions, financial solutions or products we can just suggest to them, how they can be capacitated to just increase their demand for the technology.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it. See, the aspirations of the community, for especially these communities where there is absolutely no grid connection for now, they themselves are exploring their aspirations. Okay, so when as part of a CSR program, when we do it, okay, we are aiming to provide them with domestic electricity first, because that is the basic utility that they require to run their life. Okay, we are looking at it from energy security perspective, but as a basic utility. Okay, that's the first step that we have to fulfill. So the CSR investments come as the base financial instrument. Okay. With DRE technology, what happens is it's a modular technology. So as the aspirations of the community grow, you can modulate the system and increase the capacity of the system itself. Okay. So when the community knows that, okay, now we can trust the electricity, I can invest in pumps, I can invest in refrigerators, I can invest in home appliances, the load on the system itself keeps on increasing. So the financial instruments that you might require after, say, 4 or 5 years, the system right now, even in Jharkhand that we have implemented, the first system about 4 years ago that we have implemented, has still not reached 100% capacity usage. Okay, we are still at about 30-40% max capacity. Okay, so they still have that much to appliances to buy, to see if they can put in machines, to see how better they can use the full capacity of the system. But later on, once they reach 100%, then they might apply for loans, because then the community itself would be more stronger, right? The income levels of the families of the community. Now when we are evaluating we did a financial impact assessment study of these communities, we saw 1 crore corpus, which is not a small amount, right? So to increase that capacity, maybe the community themselves can look at loans, microfinance loans. After 5 years, you might have, like the government has subsidy on solar panels. They might be able to avail of those as well. But for such communities to reach that stage, I think will take some more time.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, if there are some more questions, we can take, the panel members are here. During the tea, we can take those questions also. So I will thank Neha, Samir and Sid to be here and helping us to develop this study. Thank you very much. And as a token of appreciation, we would like to have a small gift for you.